and let us all do we can to build a better future.
My disappointment in Bernie Sanders continues to grow. And Indy, I'm pretty sure you saw the infamous town hall, or I believe a school event or auditorium event, in which Bernie Sanders was being confronted by protesters in Ireland, where he felt queasy about talking about the word a genocide, and he didn't feel comfortable using that word, even though what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. 28,000 people dead so far, men, women, and children, at least what we know of. The city of Rafah is potentially at risk of being decimated and destroyed, even though what I just said there, it doesn't do it any favors, because all of Gaza has been leveled to the ground. It's a moonscape. It's a wasteland. People have nowhere safe to go. So I think it's fair enough to call this a genocide and the actions of the Israeli Defense Forces as war crimes, and the ICJ needs to use its full power immediately. However, Indy, before I take it away, your thoughts on Bernie Sanders before we pull up this recent interview that's been going viral.
Ooh, Bernie left us a long time ago. He left us for his good friend Joe. He abandoned his entire movement, and I think that he should kiss my ass.
Fair enough. That's pretty much a very reasonable statement to say. So, folks, I want to real quick before I pull this up here. This is from another content creator. This interview that I am pulling up here, and it has been gaining a lot of traction. It's from Novara Media, and one of the interviewers, Ash, decides to speak to Bernie Sanders about his thoughts on if Israel is guilty of a genocide. But more so on that, it's about even whether you can boycott Israel, and should British and U.S. citizens be able to fight in the IDF, and so much more. So let's go ahead and pull this up here and talk about it. So since I'm in charge of the ones and twos, let's get ready to play it. I will probably pause at a halfway point so we can get our commentary and analysis. But folks, be prepared to cringe, be disappointed in Bernie, and so much more. So let's go ahead and pull up this interview up. And just so you all know, again, I want to make sure to give proper accreditation. So that is the logo, and this is the link, and all links can be found in the show notes in the description box below. And I will be posting the original video in this clipped video as well. So there you go. Let's play it.
I want to move on a bit to current affairs. In your view, is what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide?
In my view, it is absolutely disgraceful, horrible, and I'm doing, as a United States Senator, everything I can to end it. And where I'm sitting is, and I don't know how many people know this, every year the United States provides about $3.5 billion in military aid to Israel. On top of that, there is a bill. I was supposed to be here earlier. Couldn't come because a bill came up for not just all for Israel, $95 billion, including $14 billion for Israel. And I have led the opposition to that. I do not want to see the United States complicit in what Netanyahu and his right-wing lunatic friends are doing right now to the Palestinian people. So my job right now is to support what the United Nations is trying to do, have a humanitarian ceasefire, see if we can get the humanitarian aid immediately in there, and work out, as complex and difficult as it is, some type of long-term solution to what's going on there.
But do you buy the South African case at the International Court of Justice that what Israel is doing in Gaza constitutes genocide or genocidal acts?
I think, look, we can argue about definitions. It is horrible. Right now.
That's not once, but twice she asked him, is what Israel doing a genocide? And he cannot give an answer. He gives a word salad. Indy?
Well, it's a genocide. It's not hard to say. He doesn't want to be caught saying it because he doesn't want to get yelled at by whoever he's going to get yelled at by. And it's shameful and embarrassing for him. And I don't know who he's representing, but he certainly doesn't represent me.
Yeah, it's and of course, the fact that Bernie, who ran as this great end-all, be-all champion for progressive values, can't even spit it out, can't even state what is happening in Gaza as a genocide. He can't even give a yes or no. Even if he gave a no answer, you know what? Part of me would be like, okay, at least he's not tap dancing around the word and giving me some kind of word salad. You know, he's not walking around the question. He gives me an answer. Give me a direct answer, Senator Bernie Sanders, because it is a genocide. Because what we are witnessing are war crimes when men, women, and children are being shot at indiscriminately, when hospitals are being bombed, when ambulances that are driving there to save a girl and her cousin whose whole family got shot up by a tank, and then the same car gets run over by a tank, then, you know, I don't know, that falls in line with a war crime. Let's see what the rest of the cuck has to say.
Now, 29,000 people have been killed, and some 70,000 have been injured. Some 65% of the housing units have been destroyed or damaged. And I am worried right now, and I almost wonder why I'm in the UK and not back in the US dealing with this stuff, is that we have hundreds of thousands of children are facing starvation. That's what I have to.
Then what do you call that, Bernie? It's called genocide. It's called genocide. It's called war crimes. This is called abuse. This is called terror, what the IDF is doing. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows it. Everybody's talking about it. There are so many anti-war groups, but nonetheless, our oh so fantastic Senator Bernie Sanders refuses to say the word because, oh no, that might put his good friend Joe Biden in a very precarious spot. Indeed, is there anything you want to add in here?
Well, what exactly are Netanyahu doing? Why won't he state what they're doing? I mean, he states all the facts and he has all the numbers and he has all the everything, but he won't actually state it. Why? I'll tell you why. Because he funded it and he voted to fund it. And now he's looking really, really bad for voting to fund it. And he doesn't want to admit that he funded it, but we all see you, Bernie. We all see it.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we're talking about this. I don't even know why anybody's talking to him anymore.
I think it's important that you know what this serves, why we have to talk about it, because this must serve as forever a reminder. Do not hero worship these politicians. In 2016, Bernie Sanders captured lightning in a bottle. He was able to get a lot of people to follow him, a lot of people to support him, and he never was who he said he was. He was never this great radical that was going to fight for progressive values. And I think we have to still address it as a lesson, as a memorial for us, so that way we could remind the next generation never to let a charlatan like this lead us around. Because the reason why the progressive movement has fractured and splintered and fallen apart is mainly, I'm going to put most of it on Bernie. Most of it is on Bernie Sanders' fault for his inability to keep his political movement together, to have the ability to fight. And when given the opportunity to lead his people, he abandoned them. That's what he did. I don't know if you want to add
hard enough. He's never pushed back hard enough. It's always been symbolic. All right. It's always been a little, too late, intentionally. All right. We call him the strike killer because whenever he shows up at a union action, it's usually after it's already a foregone conclusion. They're about to make a deal and they need to smooth everybody over. You know, this is bullshit Bernie again, like usual. And, you know, I think it's important for you to give people that lesson and to tell especially these people that are following and are starting to believe in the squad. If there's anybody still left that's doing that.
Oh, but if there is, oh
I certainly hope not. But he serves as a cautionary tale. He was the blueprint for how they got there. And he's also probably the blueprint for how they're going to behave and how we've seen them behave. So, yeah.
Exactly. Let's hold on, folks. It gets only better.
Oh, my God.
Work on right now.
But if one agrees that it is a genocide, it means that other states have a legal right and duty to prevent genocidal acts being carried out.
But see, we can talk about that. But what does that mean? I mean, in real terms? Right now, what I am trying to do is what I think is probably maybe, and I can do it because I'm a senator. You can't. Right now, maybe, if we tell Mr. Netanyahu that he's not getting a check for $10 billion more to continue his aggressive action, he and his right-wing friends may decide it is not a good idea to continue to do that.
Oh my God, you did not say, oh, hey, if we don't give you this check, you're not going to do it. Netanyahu's been ignoring the president of the United States, your good friend Joe Biden. He's been ignoring every single institution and organization, not only just the president of the USA, but everybody. He doesn't give a damn. I covered on yesterday's show on Rumble how he is dismissive of a two-state solution. He don't care because he's bought off all of your other fantastic friends, Senator Bernie Sanders, with the lobby group known as AIPAC, which told our senators and House representatives to shut up and don't say anything. And oh, gee, jolly gee willikers, you think the Senate and the House would be like, Netanyahu, you're not going to get a check? No, they're going to get a check. They're going to get a check, Bernie. Come on, you can't be. You're not stupid. Right now, what you're doing is you're lying and you're insulting my intelligence and you're insulting my audience's intelligence. Oh, if Netanyahu doesn't get this, then he'll stop. Fuck off. My God.
So that's where I am coming from.
In addition to stopping the billions of dollars in military aid that Israel gets from the United States every year, would you back calls for a cultural, sporting, and economic boycott of Israel?
I am nervous about economic boycotts of any country, to be honest with you. But right now, what people want to do, they can do what they want to do. But right now, again, my job as a United States Senator, and I'm kind of leading that effort in the Senate, is to tell Netanyahu that he is not going to get any more U.S. aid.
Did you feel nervous about the boycott movement against apartheid South Africa? Was that a concern you had at the time?
Yeah, because what's the difference between the apartheid boycott of South Africa and the growing apartheid boycott of Israel? I mean, there's again, both governments, the one in South Africa and the one in Israel, are horrific institutions that oppressed people, made them not second-class citizens, but made them non-existent in the eyes of that said government and state. The Palestinian people are being exterminated. Gaza has been leveled to the ground, likes of which we have never seen before. And what do we see in the West Bank? Well, we see settlers going to people's houses with all sorts of weapons and removing them from their homes. But yet he's nervous about an economic boycott. Indy.
I mean, this woman is just dismantling him. She's giving him every out, and he's just not taking it, and it's really bad. He's trying so hard not to say the thing, and you can see it. It's mental gymnastics, and it's shameful. And we're funding this. Not only that, we're sending them the weapons to do it. Here, we're not going to give you another 10 billion, BB, but we're still going to give you the 3.5. And he's saying not another dollar, but that's meaningless and toothless because he doesn't have the power to do any of that. It's a nice thought, but there's nobody who actually. Mitch McConnell's not going to make that happen. Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Johnson aren't going to make that happen. He's just standing there saying words, and they're nice words, but that's all they are.
So again, she is definitely delivering a 1-2 gut check to Bernie, which is something I have to say. Well done.
But my headset died. What I thought that as an apartheid state at that point, it was important to put pressure, but people can do as they want, and that's all.
Do you think that it's right that British citizens and American citizens can go and fight in the IDF when, as you say, there are such profound humanitarian concerns in Gaza?
Yes. Hey. Should U.S. and British citizens go there? I mean, she's destroying him with very simple questions, which are like yes or no, and he's like, oh my goodness, these are the most difficult questions I've ever had, or either that he knows that he can't answer properly, or the Democrats are going to stick something up his wazoo.
Well, I think if British and American people want to do that, I suppose they have the right to do it. It's not something that I've really thought a whole lot about.
Do you think they should?
Yes or no, Bernie? Come on.
Should have the right.
Look, I think what the Israeli government doing now is horrible, and I'm not quite sure why people would want to be, part of that effort.
Now, hold on. Now I know everyone's familiar with the 3-minute and 55-second video that's going all over Twitter with this interview, but there's just a slight bit more that must be addressed in here because she brings up something that's very relevant. Man, first name Julian, last name A, who's somewhere in the European hemisphere on an island. That's great, in the fight for his life. And then, of course, we bring up the Trump versus Biden. So I just want to play this last half part of it. Folks, there's a lot more to this interview, and I'll be posting a full link in its entirety in the comment section below, pinned when this video is clipped. So I encourage all of you to please check this interview out. She does a fantastic job, especially in the second half of this interview.
Moving on a little bit, tomorrow will be Julian Assange's likely to be his last court date in the UK. He is facing spying charges in the United States. This could be his last chance to remain here in the UK. Do you think that he should be protected as a whistleblower?
I'm a little bit, I don't know a whole lot about it, to be honest with you, but I am a little bit nervous about the Espionage Act being used against them in the United States.
Do you think that people have a right to know what their governments are doing abroad?
I think so. Yes, I do.
And I guess my last question.
So there's his answer for Julian Assange. Now, he's had many time to correct or either that, really speak out. Bernie, since you're in that part of the world, are you gonna knock on the door? Hey, folks, let's have democracy in chat. Type 1 if you think good old Bernie is going to stand in solidarity with all the people there at the court. Or type 2, you think Bernie's just going to fly on out. I wonder how many 2s we're going to have in the chat. I wonder.
Is that it could be a Trump-Biden election. How worried are you about that particular contest?
Well, if you believe the polls, and I do.
Okay, so here we go. Trump versus Biden. What do you think he's going to say? He's going to say the American people are going to make the choice themselves, or is it just like, oh, we got to stop Trump because he's a fascist?
Right now, if the election were held today, it's likely that Trump would win.
Is there something the Democrats should be doing differently?
Yeah, they should be doing a lot differently.
What, Bernie? Maybe there's some things you should have done differently, like not be a nutless wonder, you cuck.
And I'm going to do my best to get them to do a lot differently as an independent. And that is, if you want to win over Trump supporters, you got to start talking about the needs of working families.
Bull, Bernie, bull on you, sir. Let me tell you something, Bernie. You and your fantastic friends in the Democratic Party and in corporate media have been constantly vilifying Trump supporters. Now, look, I'm going to have my differences with Trump supporters, and Trump supporters, especially in the second half hour of our live stream show, we're going to be on Rumble. And I'm just going to give just how your boy Donald, the old Donald, kind of gave us a big old screwing, his royal F up, but more on that for another segment on the show. But the point is, what I don't like is when corporate media starts vilifying Trump supporters as Confederates or fascists or evil people, because that's what your political party is doing, Bernie Sanders. Or either that, you have pundits and other people in positions of power saying that maybe they should be kicked out. Now, why am I so vocal and angry about this? Why am I so emotional about this? It's because I saw this happen to Bernie Sanders supporters in 2016 and 2020. I saw this happen to third parties consistently since I've been covering politics, since we started Heartlands Media in 2017. So in many ways, folks, I don't like it when people get vilified as being the threat or being bad people. I've seen it happen to everyone across the political spectrum, mostly by the liberal Democrats, the neoliberal Democrats, who want to put the jackboot on everybody because how dare they vote differently? Gee, Bernie, how's your outreach going?
You got to make working people understand that government can actually do good things for them, that we don't have to undermine democracy and blame immigrants for all of our problems. So we need a transformation of the Democratic Party. We need to make it a party of the working class, speaking to the needs of the working class. And if we begin that process, I think Biden can win.
Senator Sanders, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very
much. Sanders, you are a nutless wonder and a cuck and a disappointment. I don't know what else to say about you, Senator Bernie Sanders. And while Indy is still fixing his headset, he will be joining us again here very soon. I want everyone to understand this. Bernie, once again on my show and for everyone to see on social media, you have proven yourself to be the nutless wonder. You're somehow going to use your power on the Democrats to somehow convince them when you're the one that dismantled your political movement. You're the one that compromised. You compromised more than Phil Leotardo, who spent a specific time in the amount in the can. I don't know how many years he did. He's always been quiet about it. You've compromised more than Phil Leotardo, and you got nothing. That's who you are, Bernie. You compromise and got nothing. And it's rather quite pathetic for somebody who served so long in Congress. your friend Joe Biden, your good friend Biden, who's been on the wrong side of history, when he got into office, what did you do? Did you get anything that you asked for, especially with the aftermath of the Democratic primary? No, you got nothing in return. And yet you and AOC and the rest of the squad are more than happy to endorse him right away, as soon as possible. The reason why I talk about Bernie Sanders and bring him up is, and I try not to talk about him too much, but he must serve as a reminder. We cannot be blindsided by politicians. Electoral politics isn't going to save us. What's going to save us is us, people, taking the initiative and charge ourselves, not having these jagoff politicians come in and save the day. They don't like us. They don't think about us. They don't respect us. And Bernie Sanders did a hell of a job in swindling and tricking people. It's quite impressive. Bernie, tell me again, what's happening in Gaza? Is it a genocide? Yes or no? The fact that he had to dance around that word says a lot about him, because he can't give a clear, coherent answer, because he's a cuck. He's a liar. He's a fraud. And he's somebody who is more than happy to jump on the bandwagon to vilify Trump supporters or third-party voters or independent voters, and yes, even his own supporters. Never forget, he abandoned his people in 2016 and in 2020. Never forget what happened at the DNC convention in Philadelphia. Never forget how the media smeared his own people that bent over backwards to secure votes for him and support for him. He didn't fight for them because he never believed in his message.